Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is your girl Robin Patterson, and I am here. This channel is talking about dual diagnosis of dementia, and we are talking about vascular dementia, and we're talking about Lewy body dementia. And so that's what we're going to be talking about on this channel. And I am your host, and I am the caregiver. I am the daughter of Ruth and Richard Bagwell. That's my parents' name. And I am Robin Bagwell Patterson. And so I gave you a little bit of an introduction last time. So if you're new to my channel, definitely hit that like button and subscribe, okay? So that we can get this information out. I am so new at this. I'm not new at talking to people. I'm not new at being in front of the camera, but I am new at this platform because it is something that I have a burden for as a result of my dad being diagnosed with Lewy body dementia back in March of this year. So March of 2022, my dad was diagnosed with Lewy body dementia. My mom was diagnosed with vascular dementia in June of 2008. So my mom's been on this journey for quite a while. My dad's journey is fairly new. My parents have been living with me and my family for the last 3.5 years. It kind of started out as my dad was having surgery, and because he was the primary caregiver for my mom who had vascular dementia, it was necessary for them to come here. And so we brought them here so that he could recover from his surgery. And as a result of that, and going back and taking them back home and just kind of seeing how things were looking in the house, and just realizing that it was really a lot for my dad to do on his own. My husband and I talked about it, and we decided to move them in with us, not knowing that things would change so drastically with my dad's health, right? My dad has been healthy, very, very healthy. He could outrun me and outwalk me on a good day, on a bad day, right? And so my dad was very healthy. He was in the military, very strong, walked, did exercise, could walk a couple of miles a day in his 80s, right? And so this has really been challenging for him as well as for us, because with the Lewy body dementia, the way that it presents with him is he has orthostatic hypotension as a result of the Lewy body dementia. And so his blood pressure drops anywhere from 60 to 100 points just when he stands. And so as a result of that, if his blood pressure drops too low, which it has dropped as low as 55, and that's the top number, he would just pass out and he would have a syncope episode. And so we were making trips back and forth to the ER because his blood pressure would drop, and just trying to figure out what in the world was going on. And so as a result of that, several trips to the hospital, several doctor's appointments, several questions. One of the doctors at the hospital here was able to diagnose that it was Lewy body dementia, and that's what was causing the orthostatic hypotension. So the orthostatic hypotension was actually a side effect, if you will, of the Lewy body dementia. And as I said, orthostatic hypotension is where it's low blood pressure, and it's as a result of movement. So from laying to sitting, from sitting to standing, from standing to walking. So with each of those movements, my dad's blood pressure would drop. And so we try to keep his blood pressure higher than 160. Preferably, if his blood pressure is around 180, over 110-ish, then he is great. And I know that that sounds really high, but because of the orthostasis, when he stands, his blood pressure can drop anywhere from 60 to 100 points. So if it's around 180 and it drops 80 points, he's still at 100. But if it's at 140 and it drops 80 points, then we're in trouble and he's going down. And so I started this channel because I wanted people to be informed. I wanted people to be educated. I wanted people to get the information that they need to get the proper diagnosis, to ask the right questions, to see the right physicians, so that if there is something going on with you or with your loved one, that you don't have to go through what I went through, or other people have gone through in trying to figure out what is wrong. There's no specific test for Lewy body dementia. There are a number of exercises. There are a number of questions. There's a lot of information that is used in gathering the symptoms and the signs, but there is no test. It's not like you can get a blood test and you can say, oh, that's Lewy body dementia. It doesn't work like that. And so it's different also because with vascular dementia, which is as a result of a stroke. So my mom had a stroke, and as a result of the stroke, there was not enough oxygen to the brain for too long of a period of a time, and so it affected her memory. And so as a result of that, her memory began to decline. And so with vascular dementia, you can tell by an MRI, a CT scan. You can tell by various tests in terms of memory to check, But with Lewy body dementia, there is not a test. There's not one single way to say, oh, that's what this is. And so it's a bit of a challenge to determine exactly what is going on. And so if you're a caregiver, or if you are someone who has symptoms that you don't understand or you're not sure what's going on, I want to encourage you to document everything, right? That's what this episode is about. Write it down, journal it, document it. Keep the information in a notebook that you can get to at any point, at any time, so that when you go to the doctors, you have all of the information that you need to paint a picture for them. As I said in my previous episode, doctors practice medicine. They go to school, they have knowledge, they have experience, but they don't know everything. And so based upon the information that you give them, they come up with a diagnosis as well as a number of tests to help prove either this is what it is or this is what it is not. And so I want you to know that it is so important to document. If you're having issues with your blood pressure dropping too low, it could be orthostatic hypotension. If you notice that, then you have to take at least 3 blood pressures per day at minimum. So I take my dad's blood pressure before he gets out of bed so that I have a baseline for the day. And then if it's too low, I don't let him get up. I give him, his cardiologist suggested giving him Pedialyte because it has a lot of sodium in it. And the sodium is what helps to raise his blood pressure. And so when you have low blood pressure, you need something to help raise it. And so sodium is something that can kind of get into the system a little bit quicker and help raise the blood pressure. My dad has had times where his blood pressure dropped and it was like 57/44, right? And he was passing out. And I'm like, okay, we got to do something to get this blood pressure up. So I started giving him salt water. Now, as soon as I gave him some salt water and his face would tear up, I was like, I know it's nasty, but go on and swallow it. I need to get this in your system, right? And so I would give him salt water and give him just a couple of sips, and it would help. literally in a matter of 10 minutes, I would take his blood pressure again and it would have started to raise. And so it's important that you document everything. Write down if you notice that you're forgetting things, if it's you. If you're a caregiver for someone and you notice that they're not quite where they used to be mentally, if you notice that they're forgetting things, or they're jumbling their words, or they're putting things down and not remembering where they put them down. Now, mind you, I forget things. I put stuff down and forget that I put it there. But, you know, in the course of a day and then being a caretaker and all of that kind of stuff, that's not abnormal. But I'm talking about abnormal forgetfulness. I'm talking about consistently. And so it's really important, once you start noticing a change, that you document everything. Write it down. Get a notebook and keep everything together, okay? You don't have to be super organized to do it. One notebook can do it, right? And document. I would start the day and I would just put the date at the top of the page, and then I would write my dad's first blood pressure, right? Then after he got up, if his blood pressure was good, once he got up and he went and walked, after he sat down, I would take his blood pressure again to see how much of a drop there was. Then after he ate, I would take his blood pressure again, because after he eats, he's like, I'm ready to get up and go into the other room. Well, I need to make sure that your blood pressure is high enough before you move. So I need you to wait. And so these are just things that I would do. And these are things that I came up with because it was like, I'm caring for you and you're getting up and you're about to pass out. And my dad is about 5'10", about 180 pounds. And so I'm 5'2". Okay. So just the height difference, even not so much the weight difference, but the height. And so sometimes I would be home alone. So I'm grabbing him to try to keep him from falling, because I don't want him to hit his head or to, break a hip or anything like that. So I am hyper vigilant. And so it's important that you document everything, write it down. Even if it's the smallest thing, even if it seems that it doesn't matter, write it down anyway, because this will give the doctor a picture. The doctor needs to see, because the only way that my dad was able to be diagnosed with Lewy body dementia was because of how hypervigilant I am about taking his blood pressures, about noticing when it's higher and when it's lower, about noticing what he does and when he's asleep or when he wakes up, or how tired he is, or if, he was having hallucinations. And so it was like everything that the doctor asked me, I was able to answer because I took copious notes. And so I encourage you to write it down so that you can paint a picture for whatever healthcare professional you find yourself in front of. You need to be able to paint a picture. You need to know yourself if it's you. You need to know the person that you're caring for if it's someone else, because you know better than they do, right? Even though they have the education, even though they may have the answer, you know better. And I'll share it for another video, but I would tell the doctors, my dad's in the hospital. He has orthostatic hypotension. This is his medication. He's supposed to have it 3 times a day. And they know all of this information. And then what do? Don't give it to him. Well, his blood pressure was running high. His blood pressure was running about 160. So we discontinued it. Why? Why would you do that? Right? I get it. He's in the hospital. But listen to what I'm telling you. It's orthostatic hypotension. And you would think that the doctors and the nurses know what that means. But they didn't. And it took my dad having a whole full out, passing out episode in the hospital before they listened to what I was saying. I know. So listen to me. I know you're the physician, but I need you to listen. And so that's another episode. So we're not going to talk about that right now. But today is about documentation. If you don't write it down, it doesn't exist. That's what we say in childcare, right? Because I worked in childcare in the childcare and education field for about 30 years or more. About almost 40 years. And so I worked as a director the last 12 years. And for licensing, they would always say, if it's not written down, it didn't happen. If it's not documented, it doesn't exist. And so I'm sharing that with you. It may not be childcare, but trust and believe it's going to feel like it after a while. So document, write it down, journal, a notebook, sticky notes around the house. Whatever it is that you need to do that works for you, do that. But keep copious notes, because that will be the key to you getting a diagnosis, or to you getting the care that you need, or to you getting the medication that's going to help. And then if a medication is not working, because you're documenting, if there's side effects, then the doctor knows, well, this is not working and this probably can work better for you. But if you don't have any notes, if you're not, because don't leave it to your memory, because I say all the time, I got a lot of moving parts, and I got the Indy 500 going on in this head of mine. And so I can't keep it all together. I can't remember everything. And so it's important to write it down. That's also one of the reasons why I'm doing this, because it's so much information that people need and that I need to share, because in the African American community, there is a disparity in our treatment. And so we have to be our own advocates, and we have to be the one that will speak up for ourselves or for our loved ones, because if we don't, who's going to do it? And if we don't have documentation, if we don't have notes, if we don't have a folder, a notebook, a sticky pad, or something that discusses what's been going on, then we're not giving the doctor the information that they need to help them come up with a diagnosis of what's going on. Because doctors take the information that we give them to determine what may or may not be going on with us. So document, document, document. Write it down, journal, whatever you need to do, put it in writing. Don't leave it to your memory. Don't leave it to somebody else. Keep that information on hand so that you can be your own advocate, or you can be the best advocate as a caregiver for whomever it is that you are caring for. And this is not only about dementia. This is about everything concerning your health. You need to write it down. Okay? So thank you so much for watching, and I will be back again. And thank you so much for sharing and subscribing, sending this information to whoever may need it so that they can get the help that they need and get the answers that they need to resolve whatever issue may be going on with them. Thank you so much. I look to see you next time.